Hello and welcome back to another VMK in the game development series. This VMK is going to be very short, but I just wanted to point out two errors that I found inside of our existing code. The error is actually sitting inside of our NodeTransform. So let's go inside here and take a look at it. Inside our render OpenGL, we implemented our function here for scaling, rotating, moving, translating, and whatever. And that equation is supposed to represent this following procedure. However, if you were following along what I was doing in OpenGL and comparing it with what I was showing you in VRealm, you'll notice that they don't exactly match. And the reason for that is that my equation here is actually in the reverse order. So to fix this, all you need to do is reorder all of these items in the opposite order. So for instance, take the translate and move it up to the top. So we translate first, and then we want to move the center. Then we want to rotate. Then we'll scale it. And then lastly, we just leave the last one here because it's already reversed for us. Okay. So reversing the order of our math here is actually going to simplify us being able to work with the scene graph. And here, let me show you this in action. As you remember before, we had this rotating square in the middle of the screen. Well, before, when we tried moving it, let's take a look at, where is it? Scene and initialize. Right here. Remember, before when we tried moving it off the center using this -3 value, what was happening was the box itself was actually orbiting around the very center point. And you can go back to the previous video and take a look exactly what I mean. But now that we made this reversal in the equation, what's going to happen is we're going to move the box first, and then we're going to rotate it. So now notice that the box is moved ahead of us, but it's still rotating about its center point. It's no longer orbiting about 0, 0. Now this is more helpful for us because it allows us to manipulate the scene graph much more logically. When the equation was reversed, it's not wrong, but it's a little bit harder to work with. So I prefer to have it this way. The other error that I was able to find was underneath the node CPP class. So inside here, under find node, you'll notice that if you're trying to look for a specific node, we do a comparison here. But you'll remember that when we initialize our nodes, we always set our name to be null. And we don't allocate any memory for that variable here unless we set a name. So if we call set name, then we call new and we allocate memory to it. So when we go in looking for a node, this is actually going to crash because this pointer here doesn't exist. So we need to put an if statement here. If this guy exists, then do the look. Otherwise, if it doesn't exist, don't do this comparison and continue looking on through. So we can build this, and you won't notice any difference now with this change because we weren't using find node. But in the future videos, I'll be using this find node just because it's a lot easier to work with rather than keeping track of things yourself. All right, so come back for the next video where I'll be introducing a headlight.